Why can I hear the light? It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more. Breaking through the bars high. This will last forever. You should learn to be kind. It always ends in fire. It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it is more. It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 296. This is a show about trains. Did you guys hear the train? I just want to make sure.
No, I didn't.
You didn't hear the train.
No.
It was deafening to me. The train. I thought we were going to be clear, but the train went by just a few seconds ago.
I think the reason you heard it and I didn't is because your house is on the train tracks.
I thought maybe you heard it through my microphone.
You
Oh,
live in
okay.
Snowpiercer. That's your.
I live
your
in
whole existence.
Snowpiercer. Yeah. My house is pretty close to the train, but it makes it worse because it's like a little valley and then there's like a bridge nearby that it echoes under because it goes under the bridge, it echoes underneath it. So it just makes it worse. And then this window of my office is like facing the train, basically. So, it is what it is. Anyway, I got derailed there. I'm betting. I didn't mean to make that pun. I didn't mean to make that pun, but I did.
Hey.
I'm Ben, and with me here today are two of the most beautiful boys you've ever met. First of all is Davey. Hello, Davey.
How you doing, Ben?
Good. It's weird when you give me a pause when I say hello, and you're just like looking at me.
I wasn't sure if you were going to ask me how I'm doing, but I can tell you how I'm doing.
Dave, how are you doing?
I've been spending a lot of time lately. You guys got parents, right?
I've
Two
heard
of them.
My mom has discovered Amazon.
Oh, no.
But she's not very tech savvy at all, which is weird because she worked with a computer for years and years and years. But I think she just knew how to get to her email and kind of that's it.
Yeah.
So every time she sees something she likes on Amazon, it's a phone call. It's not a quick phone call. It's it's long, and I've just resorted to having her install TeamViewer. So now I just kind of go on her computer and do everything for her. But I do have to say that Amazon, for as big as it is, doesn't really have the most user-friendly user interface. You know, it's just
Oh, really?
it just seems jumbled and messy to me. But in any case,
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time doing geriatric tech support with my mother.
Wow.
So
I've done that.
To me, Amazon seems super easy, but it's because I've been using it for dang near, 20 years now? In some capacity or another. Obviously, much more as an adult than as a youth. But yeah, I guess it is. There's a lot of stuff on those pages, especially for somebody who's just discovering it in the year of our Lord 2024. It's
Yep.
pretty incredible.
big time.
Also, to Brandon, I couldn't help but notice the dig you made towards Dave when he asked about parents, and you said, I've got 2 of them. Is that an insult to people who don't have 2 parents?
I mean, biologically, everyone has 2 parents
I guess that's
at
fair.
some point, right, Ben?
Well, I guess it depends on the definition of the word parents, but yes, you are technically correct.
Okay, all right.
Virgin Mary has entered the chat.
No shade.
You're going to
thrown.
take the one exception in the entire history of the world, and throw it in my
No.
face.
No shade thrown here. Hi, hello, Ben. Hi, how's it going?
Hi,
What's
Brandon.
up?
You seem real.
You derailed me as well. What's going on tonight, fellas? How are we doing? How
doing-
is everyone tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. Every day, I just think, how much longer till Call of Duty?
To answer that question, we have to know the date first. When is the date, boys?
I think it's October 25th.
Set the date. Remember the date.
I think it's literally 1 month from today.
Very soon is the answer to that.
Yeah.
A mere 4 weeks away, boys, and we will be in sweet bliss for 2 to 3 months before the honeymoon period quickly wears off.
I give it 2 weeks before the complaints start. I love
it won't take
watching
2
the
weeks.
Twitch streamers every year. It's day one. It's like, this is the Call of Duty. It's back, baby. And then I set an alarm on my phone for 2 weeks from then. Tune into their stream, and the bitching has started. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You got to tune in sooner than that because it starts like hour 4 of the stream on the first day, I think, a lot of times. But yeah, I'm excited for the game. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be good. The beta was a lot of fun, and the stuff we've seen is good. But what I'm excited for is just like, we get together for gaming every now and then. You know, at least like you and I, or I and another person or something. Like once a week at minimum are hitting each other up playing something. But Call of Duty is like everybody wants to play every night.
Dude, the great
the boys.
unifier.
It's
the
the
great
great
unifier, bro. It's
And
the
that's
melting
really-
pot.
It's a melting pot. That's really what continues to make Call of Duty worth buying for me. I like playing it, but there's nothing like just being like having a good reason for all your buddies to want to get together and play all the time.
Amen.
Yeah.
And then, like me, nobody else usually has this effect. I get to stay and watch while every single one of my friends slowly stops playing a game. And then I'm all by myself.
Stick around for a while, but you play a lot. I think you play a lot more in different times than me. For sure.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And Dave goes to bed at like 7 p.m. So
I'll log in to play for the first time, and you will both have prestige multiple times.
7 p.m. Canadian.
This is launch day, guys.
listen, we like what we like. This is the HP Podcast, as formerly mentioned, episode number 296. You can support us if you want to by going over to patreon.com/handsomephantom. You can sign up there for as little as $1. $1 United States dollar, I got to clarify. Local pricing may apply or something like that. You can go over there and sign up and support us for as little as $1 a month. Get ad-free early access to the show. Get the show a full day early, full day and a half, really, most of the time. We're live on YouTube at the Handsome Phantom channel and on Ben is Handsome on YouTube every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. This week it's Wednesday. It's a little different this week, but it's usually, I'd say 98% of the time, it's Tuesdays at 7, but we always try to give you a heads up. And most of the time we give you that heads up on the show and also in the Discord. That's not the right tab I just pulled up. Also in the Discord, which you can check out by going over to handsomephantom.com/Discord, where we hang out with some fine folks, some okay folks, but no purchase required to join the Discord. We appreciate it. Boys, I don't know. I feel like I should ask you something else, but I don't really have anything else to ask you right now.
Can I ask you a question, Ben?
Please, I'd love that.
We're recording a night later because you had a
Yeah.
concert last night. How was that concert, Ben?
The concert was great. Yeah, I went to see Under Oath. I think I figured out that it's my. I know for sure at least 15. I think it was my 17th time seeing them in the last 20 years.
Wow.
And it's not even been like intentional. Like I'm gonna go to every Under Oath show. It's just like, I mean, definitely I went to some, but I'd see them at festivals and Warped Tour and stuff like that too, or see them with other bands that I was like mostly going for. I mean, I love Under Oath. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know how I feel about their new stuff. Anyway, the show was great. It was great because they played like probably their first like album as the band that they are now. They played the whole thing in entirety, and then they took like votes in every city and played 6 or 7 songs that were just like fan voted that were off other
nice.
albums.
That's cool.
So that was cool. They played one. They played like their newest single, which I don't care for their new style, which is fine. Bands are allowed to change and evolve, and I don't have to listen to it. I'm sure it's fine music. It's just not what I want from that band. It's not the band I wanted, but that's okay because they all but one song they played last night were like all-time bangers for me. So it's perfect.
Lit, man. Lit.
Yeah. This is interesting. The opener, their name was Static Dress. I'd never heard of them before they were like announced for this tour. And while they were playing, like they were okay, but our buddy Phil, he's not actually dead, but I mean he is still dead, but he did go to the show with us.
You saw him.
I saw him. He does exist.
Is he in this room right now, Ben?
No comment. Phil and I were like looking on Wikipedia at these people's page, and apparently they're a decent sized band. I'm not in the scene anymore, as it were. They're from the UK, but I looked on their Wikipedia page. They have a Game Boy Color game named Static Dress. And I went down and asked their merch person. I was like, "Do you have this here?" Because I don't even. I mean, the band was probably fine. I never listened to them. It's hard to get a feel for a band at a live show, whatever. But I was like, if there's a band like a hardcore-ish band that has a Game Boy Color game that was published and released in the year 2024, I want to have it just for the novelty, if nothing else. And the merch person was like, no, it was only available for pre-order because they didn't want to make too many, all that kind of stuff, which I get. But I was a little disappointed, needless to say, because I would have bought that up. I'm usually not one for merch at shows, really. But that I would have bought just to have it.
Cool.
But thanks for asking, Dave. It was a good time. Ate some Nashville hot chicken beforehand.
Ooh.
That was a good time as well. And that's all. Boys, yesterday we had a state of play. It was actually kind of nice that it worked out that we needed to move the show this week anyway, because now we get to talk about the state of play. So I figured we'd go through and do a little recap and also draw out some of the things that were most interesting to us about the show. But first, let's start with a broad overview. Dave, what did you think of the state of play as a whole? Did you get to watch it? Did you consume it later in chunks? And then what did you think of the whole thing overall?
I did watch it. I watched it live. The Twitch streamer who was co-streaming it had 2 sets of ads, so 13 total within the 30-minute stream. I don't know how that's possible, but so I missed a decent chunk. But yeah, I think my expectations, I try to set them pretty low for states of play, because I know a lot of the times their marketing, Sony is obliged to do it because of some marketing contract they have with someone. So I'm not expecting like E3 levels of excitement from these things, especially because they're just happening so often. So
Sure.
Overall, I was not disappointed, but I wasn't super excited. Obviously, there was the big thing at the end that we're going to talk about. That was great, but I think we all kind of knew that was coming. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, world shattering for me, but it also wasn't disappointing. So yeah.
Brandon, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of where Dave is. I mean, I thought the show was good. Overall, I don't know that my socks were blown off by the end. I still had my socks firmly planted on my feet. But what I wonder is that, like, why didn't they save the pro announcement for something like this? Wouldn't that have made it way more interesting?
Probably to give it its own spotlight and like time to shine, maybe.
I guess.
I think obviously we have, like Dave mentioned, they had some announcements of their own, but they also had marketing obligations. But I think they saved this to hype up the pro and remind everybody again, instead of being the other way around.
Right.
Because if they had done it the other way around, they would have then had to like wait longer. And
Right.
maybe some of these game announcements weren't ready or something. So
Right.
I think they announced the Pro, they get it out in the hands of some people, some Digital Foundry types, etc. And they get the news rolling, and then a day or two before pre-orders go live, they're like, "Hey, by the way, reminder, the Pro's coming.
Yeah.
X going to give it to you."
Yeah, no, it was good. There were definitely some interesting things here that I or anybody else hadn't heard of. So that's
Sure.
kind of cool. And even though we were gonna kind of expect something with Ghost at some point, it was definitely really cool to like actually see it. And
Sure.
you know, we'll get into the minutia, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, just some really cool things. Nothing like crazy. I guess it was a little bit above meh for me. You know, it was like a little bit above just like that was fine. There were some cool things that surprised me, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. I think it was a. I think if it hadn't been so long since we heard anything major from Sony, other than here's a 15th remaster, here's a new console or an improved console, whatever. Like, if we knew more about their upcoming slate, then I think this would have been fine. I think the only reason it's being received somewhat poorly online, and it seems to be kind of received somewhat poorly online, is that we just don't really know what Sony has coming. It's weird. Like, we have a few ideas. We know that they're going to do, Horizon Remaster, which we'll talk about. We know that they're going to do Wolverine. We know those things are coming. We kind of assumed Ghost was coming. But past that, it's kind of a blind spot. But I think it was a good show. And in any other situation, it probably would have been a great show. But that's the only reason I think it's getting docked a little bit of points. But you guys have both alluded to Ghost.
Yeah.
Dave, kick it off with Ghost. Let's just talk about Ghost for a minute. Tell me what you want, what you really want.
I think Ghost. I think Sony could have easily just given us a splash screen in a date, like a year, and people would have still been talking about Ghosts of Yotei today.
That's correct. Yeah.
As much as they are, but this game is coming out relatively soon, so I'm happy we got like a pretty good extended look at the game that clearly had cinematics, it had gameplay. It gave us a close look at the new protagonist we'll be playing as. It gave us a look, or pretty much confirmed that we're going to be playing on the mainland rather than on Tsushima. So yeah, I mean, this is a great first look at one of Sony's marquee titles, and I think they did all the right things. They could have kind of shoehorned something in with like picking up the story from where it left off, but I like that it appears they're trying to tell a slightly different story with a new character. So we're going to get new gameplay mechanics, one of which they showed off with, like, it looks like you had some sort of wolf companion, or was it a fox? It was a wolf.
It was a wolf, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, great trailer, showed a lot, and everything I saw, I was really excited to see. So yeah, it's as you said, Ben, I don't know much of what Sony, I can't tell you much of what Sony exclusively has coming next year, but I'm glad to see that this is coming, because I love Ghost of Tsushima. I platinumed it earlier this year or last year. So yeah, I'm ready for more. I really am.
Brandon, your thoughts on the game in general, and then also, we played Ghost and we love Jin. We love Jin Sakai.
Yeah.
Jin Sakai is not in this game that we know of. I assume not, because of the time difference. But at any rate, how do you feel about the departure from the Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, I mean, I guess generally I am incredibly hyped to see the Ghost franchise come back at all. We kind of assumed this sort of thing would happen, like we alluded to at the beginning of the show, and it's no surprise to anybody with how successful it was. I know a lot of people online seem to be upset that Jin is not going to be in it, and I could understand why, because the character itself and the story around the first game was so strong and so beloved. It was one of my favorite PS4 games, period. And there are some PS4 games that are like top tier, but it really is fighting for the top spot. Like, this game cannot be matched by almost anything out there on any platform. Sucker Punch really hit it out of the park with this new IP. But to see them kind of iterate on that, I think, is really important. am sad to see Jin go, but the chances of us seeing Jin are like slim to none. I mean, the time difference
Right,
is
yeah.
insane. He would be a fucking skeleton, quite literally. So, like no bone, nothing left, decomposed. Maybe not even skeletal remains at this point. But yeah, this is cool. I have no problem with it being a female protagonist. Everyone's all butthurt about it. I think it's really cool to see a lady samurai out there. I got to see some double sword action, which I thought was super cool. The wolf looks awesome. I love the new
Guns.
location. The guns, right? The new technology is really going to change a lot about how these things are played. And I'm glad they're not kind of stagnating because, moreover, to my point about the whole Jin experience, right? The whole Ghost of Tsushima experience, having played that game, it wraps up in such a wonderful way. Like it's a whole arc and it comes full circle by the end. There's like a sense of redemption by the end, depending on how you play it out. Like it makes sense that it all ended the way it was. And sometimes it's kind of best just to leave those things lie. I wouldn't want to like dilute how special that story can be contained by continuing it in a different way. I guess if that makes sense, because I don't know. It's like adding to the Titanic, making the Titanic 2, or like, I don't know, making the movie Psycho 2. Like it's just, it can be one thing and we can make something else, right? It's still going to be what you love. It's just not the same story and it doesn't have to be the same person. So I think this is a good move. And everyone who's upset by it, I can't empathize, and I honestly don't really understand because it's going to be amazing, and if you don't think it's going to be amazing, then you probably didn't like the first game very much. You probably just like to argue on the internet. So,
Yeah. In fairness, I'm sure there are people arguing. I know that there's like a clip going around of Asmongold, like, do I have to play as a woman? But like, I've
that
seen
guy
more
is
people.
so stupid.
I've seen more people complaining about people complaining that there's a female protagonist than I have actually seen complaining about a female protagonist. So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure if there's actual drama or if people are refuting fake drama to some extent. But I shouldn't be surprised. The internet's full of drama weirdos for no reason. But I'm excited too. Ghost was one of the first games and last games that I wasn't interested in when it was releasing. It came out, and within like 3 days, maybe not even that long, Brandon, you were telling me how great it was, and I was like, I gotta play it. And I went out and bought it and then platinumed it. Like, I didn't play anything else for however long it took me to finish the game. And then I played a bunch of the multiplayer as well. So it was a nice surprise for me. A game I don't know why I wasn't really looking forward to, but I wasn't. So I am actually excited for this one now, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And they leave the door open. It's not like it's not like the trailer came out and was like, this is a new Ghost game. Jin is dead. It's not like they did. Like there's the opportunity for them to go back and revisit Jin if they want to. But this is just, when they say Ghost of, it basically is saying like, this is a new story, a new setting, a new character. But you know what you're getting, right? You know the basic gist of what this game's going to be. You're still going to be the Ghost,
Right.
in some way. So I think that's cool that they're able to do that.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. What else do you guys want to talk about? Do you want me to go through the different things step by step, or do we want to pull out a few things that were interesting to each of us? How do you want to attack it?
I'll be honest with you. There's only one thing that, in my opinion, is worth talking about.
Monster Hunter?
Yeah. For me personally, like I'm not saying if you like something else there, then you're an idiot. But the only other thing I want to talk about from that show is Monster Hunter. We got a release date. It's February 28th, which is a Friday. This is important to me because this is a schedule a day off work game.
Yeah.
So yes, this game continues to look incredible, and it's had a 2025 release date for a while, and I don't know if that was December 31st or January 1st, but now we know, and it's coming relatively soon. So, I can't. And you guys talk a lot about Call of Duty and that thing. I hope you guys return the hype with me on day one with Monster Hunter, because that's another game that is excellent with people. So
yeah, I'm planning on playing it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Brandon, what seemed interesting to you?
I'll touch on this like real briefly because it's like a half answer. The Midnight Walk looks cool. It is a
Yeah.
PSVR 2 game, so I feel like that game will be exceptionally beautiful in VR and maybe not as interesting on PS5 by itself. It looks like maybe one of those games that is something best in VR. And as someone who has like very distanced himself from VR, I'm just gonna touch on it very slightly and kind of move on. But one of the big standouts for me, we didn't get a release date or anything, but kind of took me by surprise by the interesting art style and kind of the whole vibe of it generally, was Hell Is Us. Hell Is Us looked really interesting to me.
Yeah,
I
everything
don't,
but the name looked interesting to me.
yeah, I mean, it's a strange name, but it's giving me like I don't know. It's giving me kind of Death Stranding vibes. I don't know, with the little drone on your shoulder, with all these creepy like no face looking guys.
Yeah.
I do feel like the enemy variety, even in the trailer that we saw, was a little bit strange. It was mostly only those no face guys. Maybe that was an intentional thing, or like the hole in their face guys. You know what I'm talking about? So
Yeah.
yeah, this looks cool. I don't know that there's a lot to comment on other than it looked really interesting art wise, and the little bit of combat that was shown seemed interesting, I guess. It's kind of hard to say right now because it seems to be far off. But it's one that I'm going to be keeping my eye on for sure because, like, visually, and that plays a huge part into games for me is the aesthetic of them. Visually, it does look intriguing to me. So, kind of came out of nowhere. I think this is actually our first look at it. Period. So,
Yeah. It is interesting to me because, like, I mean, in fairness, I haven't read up on like maybe what the developer said. I haven't read a blog post or anything like that, but I just watched the trailer and then I keep seeing people all over talking about how it looks like a Souls-like game, and I'm like, is everything with a dodge or a parry just Souls-like now? Is that what we've come to?
A stamina bar, yeah.
A stamina bar, yeah. Like, and maybe they are saying that that's what this. That's
If you
more
have
like
a
that,
single
but
bonfire anywhere in your game, it's a Souls
yeah,
like.
even if it's not interactable,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that's no release date, right? Is
no,
that correct?
no,
Yeah.
yeah, not announced. So it's probably far off.
I was gonna bring up Monster Hunter Wilds. Instead, I'll bring up Astrobot DLC. I will talk about Astrobot later, but I'm just excited to play more of it. Have a little something to do. And a huge thing that was a lot of fun for me and actually took a lot of grinding. Nah, I don't know about grinding, but it took a lot of time for me was the time trials, the speed runs in the first game and the playroom. And yeah, having that into to this game for free nonetheless is great, I think. So I'm pumped to see that coming. And then there were a few things that looked interesting to me, but they're VR, and I'm just not gonna play. I don't have a PSVR 2, and I'm not planning on getting one. There were a few things I was like, what? Like the Shredder's Revenge DLC. I'm like, isn't that a really long time after the game came out to be putting out DLC? It is free, but regardless. And then honestly, the other thing I was pretty excited to see was Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered. That's cool. Lunar remastered collection. I've never played those games, but it's cool to see that coming out. I'm at least interested to peep them. Lunar. It's actually Lunar. We've been saying Lunar for years. It's Lunar.
Really?
I've been told. I've been told by powers that be. It's Lunar.
Well,
And then obviously everybody's super hyped for Horizon Remastered. So
hell no. I will say, however, it is nice that there's a $10 upgrade.
Yeah.
I think that is much more enticing to somebody like me. I'm not biting. I want to be honest with you. Maybe if I want to play the game in the future, I'm probably in the outlier here, but I like the first one way better. So I probably will want to play the game at some point, and at which point I want to play the game again, I will upgrade. But until that point, I'm not really like chomping at the bit to jump back in. So that's just kind of me.
I'm assuming that $10 upgrade for people who already have it is going to include the DLCs. It's got to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I already have the DLCs, but yeah.
I know, but like they've got to turn it into the magnificent package or whatever. But
I don't know if they do.
I know you're right. They don't have to, but
See,
I
I
just
don't know.
I feel like they should. Like if they're going to sell it for $70 if you buy the thing again, and it's going to have it included. I feel like the $10 upgrade's got to have it too, but maybe I'm wrong. The thing I think is really, excuse me, is really interesting with this one is they're not only, it's a $10 upgrade. We're used to that at this point. I don't love it, but it is what it is. But the really interesting thing is they're going to charge that on PC for the PC version as well. I don't know if I know they don't have a lot of experience in the space, but PC gamers are not going to go for that, I don't think. PC gamers expect like free updates to games they've already paid for. And I don't mean content updates. I mean like bug fixes, graphical updates, whatever. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
I agree with you, Ben, but honestly, it seems more like a transformative thing to me. If I had the first Horizon Zero Dawn on PC, I don't think that I would feel any need at all with the current,
Right.
You can already play a better version than you can on the PS4 version. So unless you're like an enthusiast about it, which I would imagine is going to be the only people, whether you have a console or not, paying $10 for it. I agree. It is strange, but at the same point, I'm like, this isn't for anybody but the low hanging fruit kind of people, the dedicated few. So
You're right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think anybody's going to go for that because PC gamers are just not used to that kind of thing. And I mean, I guess I understand it if they're going to charge it on one platform, they kind of have to charge it on another if they want to justify it.
right.
But I don't know. Anything else that kind of struck out and tickled you a little bit?
Guys, I'm a little bit upset. Not at Dave, because he doesn't know yet, but at you, Ben.
Why?
The Lake House expansion.
Yeah, I
Alan
haven't
Wake
gotten there
2.
yet. I was trying to give you guys some time to talk. I've been talking for 10 minutes.
Well, now you could talk about the Lake House.
I saw it, but they didn't really show anything, so it's cool.
Yeah, until the very end screen where they said it was Alan Wake 2 Lake House expansion, I was positive it was for Control 2 because there were so many references to Control. I mean, I know they're all intertwined and everything, so I'm definitely going to play it. That's just is. That's what's going to happen. But I don't know what it is or how it's going to tie in or what's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see as more comes around. I think that's coming like this month or next month.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I didn't know if they were going to do any more DLC for Alan Wake 2, so I'm excited to see that they are. And probably when that comes out, I'll go and do the existing DLC as well. Final thoughts? Showcase? Or State of Play, whatever they're calling it.
I gotta be honest, boys, I was hoping we were gonna be talking about Switch 2 tonight.
Yeah. I don't really believe Switch rumors ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking like hardware leaks and stuff like that. I'm talking like when they're like, "Oh, Switch is coming." Maybe.
I
There's
think
so
some
many
people in our
Twitter
Discord
accounts.
got me kind of excited, and I'm
Yeah.
a little butthurt at those people.
Yeah.
Guys,
'Cause I
what
believe
about
everything I read on the internets.
Lego Fortnite split screen?
What about it?
That didn't do anything for you? Like
I do wonder. I mean, first of all, I think that's a great idea because the Lego Fortnite is an awesome game for people to play together, for kids to play together, for kids to play with their parents, whatever. But I do wonder if that's going to be for every system. Because if it's not going to be for Switch, they're missing a giant market there.
yeah. I don't
I
know if the Switch can handle
it.
that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. So also one more thing, the Stellar Blade plus Nier. I saw someone on Twitter say this is like Stellar Blade plus Nier is like the Gooners Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, didn't we call that like 6 or 8 months ago? I'm pretty sure we did. Pretty sure we talked about it. It was an inevitability. Probably, I think it was actually Dave that mentioned it.
Amazing.
The further we've gotten away from Stellar Blade, the more I want to play it.
Play it, Dave.
I think I'll probably is Ed still in our chat? I don't know if he's still there. I hope he's
I don't
left
know.
for a
Doesn't
second,
matter.
but I think I'll like it more than Nier, to be honest.
It's more
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
God.
The story isn't as good, but
I haven't-
It's definitely more fun. I'm positive of that.
Fair play.
I gotta play Stellar Blade so I can defend Nier with actual knowledge. Because right now I'm just like, that sounds awful to me that you would say that, but I don't know because I've not played Stellar Blade. So,
Ed,
Yeah. Well, we
Ed-
should talk about it.
Holy shit. Ed, tell me that No, he didn't play it because he's a fucking coward.
no, he didn't. Well, he might have played it. I think somebody gifted it to him as a spite thing, but he didn't want to play it because he was everybody was comparing it to Nier.
Now he has to play it, or he's not even a Nier fan.
We are giving Ed way too much credibility by even mentioning his name on the show.
I just think Stellar Blade might be better because I think it had more than 3 colors in the color palette.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's also, you know,
we'll see.
that many years newer, so. Yeah.
Ed is anti-Gooners. That's false.
Were you trying to say Goonies?
No, dude. We're not really going to have this conversation right now. I can talk to you about gooning after the show. We're not talking about
Is this
gooning
a
on the
Pennsylvania
show.
thing? Is this like Yinzers?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what edging is?
Like when you're weed whacking outside.
All right.
Lawn maintenance.
We're not talking about this right now because you can't goon unless you're edging.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But we're going to talk about it after the show. I'm sorry, boys. I don't mean to derail you. We're not never goon, Dave. Never goon.
Are we done?
Yep.
Number 2. Assassin's Creed Shadows has now been delayed until February of 2025. They saw Ghost and said we can't do it. No, there was rumors of this happening before that, and I actually had someone who I believe actually knew, and now especially I believe that, who told me this is going to get delayed. They're going to do it after the state of play, before TGS. I was like, okay, I don't really care, but anyway. Ubisoft has delayed the release date of Assassin's Creed Shadows to February 14th, 2025. According to a statement released on social media, the developers need more time to polish and refine the experience. Additionally, players who pre-ordered the game will receive a refund, and future pre-orders will receive the first expansion for free. Assassin's Creed Shadows will launch on Steam on day 1. That's big news. We'll talk about that in a minute. The news comes just a day after Insider Gaming first reported that press reviews for Assassin's Creed Shadows had been canceled. I'm not going to read the whole statement from the director or whatever, but Dave, as the resident Ubisoft shill, I wanted to get your take on this, your feelings.
So, Assassin's Creed launching 2 weeks after Dragon Age was going to be a problem for me. And now Assassin's Creed launching 2 weeks before Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be a problem for me. So, I mean, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, I'm not that upset because I'm not super hot on this year's Assassin's Creed, but at the same time, I know myself, and when we get 2-3 days out from launch, I'm going to be big on wanting to play it. Yeah, edging.
Dude, he's going to...
I'm gonna be...
You're going to be gooning the whole time. You sick fuck you.
I'm gonna be gooning for Ubisoft or whatever.
He doesn't even know.
But I don't know. I'm more curious as to why this is, like, knowing Ubisoft. I feel like this is probably more an earnings kind of business play. Maybe Ben, you know more about this, but this is not something Ubisoft does very often. We've never seen the yellow sort of announcement Cyberpunk card that's become so synonymous with the industry. So and just knowing Ubisoft is such a business, like there's such an earnings stakeholders or shareholders business, that I don't know, maybe they saw some of the positive hype coming out about Dragon Age and were like, we should probably get away from this. But at the same time, like, I feel like Assassin's Creed and a Japan-based Assassin's Creed could stand on its own, even against some of the big titles that are coming out this fall. But I'm not really too upset because, again, I wasn't super hot on it. But yeah, I don't know. Ben, do you have more information as to why this actually happened? Was there? And the other thing is we've seen quite a bit of the game, and there wasn't anything that was really troubling from a technical standpoint that I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you know anything?
No, I don't know anything official or anything. I know that their stock is at like almost an all-time low right now. So they're probably somewhat contemplating that and thinking, well, if we don't hit with this game, we're screwed, because they took a big hit after Outlaws, of course. And I think that game, they realized after Outlaws that game would have been much more well-received had it had a little more time to cook. And they probably are taking a hint from that. I think also there's no way they didn't see that interest was low for this game. And I don't know if interest was low other than the fact that it's getting delayed, because if they had millions of pre-orders, they wouldn't just be like, oh, we're going to refund all those and cancel them and move the date. Because That's just not what you do. You put the game out anyway because you're corporate America or corporate world. So I'd say that they have those metrics that they can look at. They can see how many wish lists or whatever they have. They can see how many pre-orders they're getting, etc. So I'm just assuming that they noticed that interest wasn't as high as they wanted it to be, so they moved it. But that combined with the fact there probably is some truth to the fact they wanted some more time to polish. But I don't know. Coming out, when was it originally supposed to come out?
It was supposed to come out the middle of November, so 2 weeks after Dragon Age.
So giving it two and a half extra months, two extra months for polish, isn't really that much time. It is
Yeah.
at the end of the game. It is a long time. Don't get me
But-
wrong, and it matters a lot. I don't know how that helps them though. Honestly.
You're right though. I think like even though the game has 6 weeks till it officially launches, they've usually been pretty respectful to the press cycle. So realistically, we're probably around 2 to 3 weeks out from press copies going out, and we know what happens when that's mismanaged. So hey, maybe it's a good on them kind of decision that, maybe good on you guys for taking a bit of a hit and pushing this out. So the copy that you get into reviewers' hands in the middle of January is going to be the best position to receive really good reviews, and thus people will buy it.
This is probably also the time that, assuming they follow cycles like a lot of other developers their size do, and that they've had in the past, this is about the time that like the second round of mock reviews would have been happening, because they try to get a gauge on that, right pretty close to release. So it could be too that they had a bunch of mock reviews come back and be like, look, these 10 things are awful about the game, and they think they can change that in that time. So could be bad feedback, could be low pre-orders, could be actually that the game just isn't getting done in time. That would be the least likely scenario, that there's actual technical stuff, because we've seen the stuff they've put out over the years and it's not always been ready at release. So yeah, I don't know. It's probably a variety of things though, honestly. Chat says Outlaws doesn't flop, and I bet Shadows still launches this year. Yeah, I think Shadows probably had a big part of it. I have not played Shadows. From people that I trust who have played it, and I've talked to them, a lot of people say
Outlaws.
Is that? Sorry,
Out-
you're right. Outlaws. A lot of people who have played Outlaws and said it's great. Especially now that they've done some fixing to it and they're planning on doing some more. I think that game just honestly suffered a lot because of the fact that it came out when it did. Not because of competition or anything like that, just that they could have taken more time. So that gives that some validity to me, that they're afraid. You have a Star Wars game and an Assassin's Creed game flop across 3 months' time. That's not good for your company at all. So,
Their stock's been going down steadily for like years.
yeah.
I just want to say on that note, you guys have always made fun of me as being a Ubisoft shill, but now that
But
I
jokingly
have the
and
Skull and
lovingly.
Bones Platinum in my cabinet, I'm slowly transitioning to become a Nintendo shill. So I just want to.
Oh, even worse.
Wow.
What
That's
I don't
crazy,
want that
bro.
persona anymore. I want this new shitty one.
At least their games work, though,
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. This is not in the notes, but somebody in chat just said the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster just leaked on the Xbox Store. I believe Derek, but I don't know that for sure, so I'm just going to say take it with a grain of salt. But it's interesting because Xbox has notoriously missed Final Fantasy games and Square games in general, except for, what was that game? The one that had a sequel that wasn't on the same platform.
Dragon
No,
with the blue guy.
it was like a JRPG. It was newer. The second one just came out earlier this year. Not Crisis Core. Octopath Traveler. Thank you, Derek, in chat. Octopath, that was a whole thing. But anyway, it didn't even matter for my point. It's interesting if Xbox actually got it. I mean, I know it's a while after it came out, but Xbox getting... I don't think I believe... Okay, let me just start this thought over. A lot of people think that if Xbox gets Final Fantasy the same time as PlayStation, it'll somehow revolutionize their business model. I don't think that's true, but I do think it's important because a lot of people buy PlayStations for Final Fantasy. So I think that Xbox having it as well will at least not make that decision like for people. So it'll be interesting. I still need to go back and play the Pixel remasters. Derek just tagged me in Discord while I'm live. How dare you?
I was thinking
Wario.
I was thinking of Blue Dragon, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Wario says Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster banner appears on Xbox ahead of Tokyo Game Show. Xbox TGS broadcast is scheduled 3 a.m. Pacific. So, yeah. That'd be nice. Not for me. I don't care. I can play them everywhere else. But for a lot of people, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Moving on. This will be interesting, I think. I'm like, everything else on this show sucks. This will be interesting, though. That's not true. That's not what I think. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company officially suing Palworld. Oh, I got to stop real quick. Johnny Waffles, or I'm sorry, no, it wasn't Johnny Waffles. It was Hulk Hogan in chat a little bit ago. Roasting me for saying Ubisoft instead of Ubisoft. I've explained this many, many times in the past, but since I continue across many different shows to be roasted for it, I've very openly said, I don't know how you say the name of the game or the name of the company, because I have had people who worked at that company say it to me, two different people say it two different ways. And I know like sometimes they put it in their, their shows or whatever. I don't care. I say it differently every time I say it. Get over it. I'm not actually mad at Hulk Hogan about this because he could rip my arms off, but I just want to say it's however I want to say it, and you know what I mean. Palworld's being sued. Pocket Pair specifically is being sued. It says, there's an updated story here. Let me read that. Palworld developer Pocket Pair has responded to Nintendo and the Pokemon Company's shock patent infringement lawsuit with a statement that says it's unaware of which patents it's being accused of infringing. Overnight, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company announced that the companies had taken legal action against fellow Japanese developer Pocket Pair, alleging Palworld, dubbed Pokemon with Guns by fans, infringes multiple patent rights. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are seeking an injunction and compensation for damages. It's worth noting, by the way, that Palworld came out on PS5 everywhere except Japan yesterday because of this injunction. Pocket Pair said it will begrudgingly investigate the patent infringement claims while continuing to update Palworld despite the lawsuit, and apologize to players left concerned about the future of the game. Now, going back to this earlier article, it says Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringement of its intellectual property, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect intellectual properties it has worked hard to establish over the years. There are no signs towards what copyright or patents or trademark or anything they're accusing. What's the word I'm looking for? Accusing. My God, I'm having a rough night, man. They're gooning.
They're gooning against
Pocket Pal again for infringing upon. So let somebody else talk for like 30 seconds because I'm running out of steam here.
Yeah, so this was a long time coming. Ever since this game released, people were saying this is a little sus. The models are a little bit too close. Nintendo's going to do something about this, and we know that Nintendo is no newcomer to just suing or cease and desisting the piss out of games. They just love to do that. I think it's what they love to do more than make new IP actually. But yeah, I don't know what grounds they could possibly have. I really wonder how things would hold up in the court. And I think that however this is ruled in favor of Nintendo or in favor of Pocket Pair, I think this will be a very important step on how games that are similar to each other are made in the future. Because there are many, many games that are similar to Palworld. Maybe not of scope. Maybe they're not multiplayer like this. Maybe they don't have guns. But there are a lot of games that have similar looking things to Pokemon. And at this point, there's been so many Pokemon that, it's just the way it goes. Like, I mean, everything's derivative. Art imitates art. So I'm not saying they don't necessarily have a case, but I think this will be an important showing, for the future of things like this, for the future of the medium, to kind of determine, maybe even specifically in Japan and nowhere else. But Pocket Pair does have money, not quite Nintendo money, but they made a hefty, hefty sum making this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how this sort of thing shakes out. and I had wondered how you boys felt about it. But I think it's going to be kind of important, the outcome of this situation as to the future of many similar instances of this happening over many genres of many different games. So,
Dave, what do you think about it? First, let me say this. Sorry. I haven't actually seen the complaint. I haven't seen anybody break down the complaint. From what I understand, the infringement that they're accusing Pocket Pair of is of a patent that they filed earlier this year that essentially is throwing a ball at things and catching them. And they filed it after Palworld was already released. And probably it just got verified and they're able to sue them over it. So, but I don't know if that's true. That's just some speculation I've seen online. That's what somebody in chat said earlier. It could be true. It may not be the entire thing. And Pocket Pair even said yesterday or day before or something like that, that they weren't sure what they were even being accused of. So we all know there's similarities. Don't get me wrong. Like there's a reason the unofficial marketing line was Pokemon with guns. It looks like Pokemon, right? But okay, take it away, Dave. Curious what you think.
Yeah, I think Nintendo is being their typical bully selves here. But at the same time, like Pocket Pair had to know the massive risk they were taking when they started conceptualizing this game. And it's not news to anyone that Nintendo is extremely vigilant when it comes to any perceived infringement on any of their IP. So it's kind of like, you're running into oncoming traffic and complaining when you get hit by a car. I think with legal battles like this, it's helpful to just kind of look at precedents. And I don't know that there's a super similar example or case study that you can pull here, but I know there was a big one with McDonald's a long time ago where McDonald's was basically going around the world and trying to take down anybody who used the MC slogan in front of anything, in other global markets. And what it came down to was if it
Like
reasonably,
Burger King.
yeah, like if it reasonably caused any consumer confusion and someone was using it in a restaurant that was similar to McDonald's, then the courts were ruling in favor of McDonald's. But when it was reasonable to say nobody's going to confuse this with being McDonald's, then they weren't ruling in favor of McDonald's. So in this case, like, could you reasonably look at Palworld and say people could confuse this for Pokemon? And I'm not talking about the three of us sitting in the room or the people in the chat, but the average gamer may say, oh, this is a Pokemon game. And if Nintendo is able to prove that, and considering how many resources and how much money they have to throw at legal counsel, they probably are going to be able to. That's when I think this is going to rule in favor of them. And again, I think Nintendo's being the bully here, but I also feel like Pocket Pair might be in a bit of trouble. And you bring up a good point, Ben. Is Nintendo has to be specific about this. They can't just go to a judge and say, "Look at this. This looks just like Pokemon." You have to point at one character and say, "Show me what character you think they're ripping off," or in this case, throwing a Pokeball at something is similar to this. So I think there's probably enough evidence here that Nintendo could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they used sort of similarities with Pokemon to try and sell a game that looked like Pokemon. And yeah, so I don't know, Pocket Pair, you played kind of dumb here, and I think you knew what you were getting into. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, there's a couple facets of this I want to take on. One is that Nintendo is used to threatening to sue someone, the person saying, "Oh, we give up. You win, Nintendo," because it's Nintendo, and then Nintendo just wins and doesn't actually have to fight many of their legal battles. There's a reason it's been 8 months, 9 months, something like that, since Palworld came out. And by the way, it was advertised for a long time before that. There's a reason that's taken them this long to file suit. And I really wonder if it's because they didn't have a leg to stand on. Somehow, legally, I mean, obviously in the court of public opinion, they have a leg to stand on. But in the court of law, did they have a reason, a way to address it? Because if it is true that the patent they are going after them for was only filed this year, then a court would have to say, well, I don't know if they'd have to say, but it'd be reasonable to say, oh, you didn't care about this enough to patent it before a competitor came along. And most of the time in cases like that, it doesn't win. There are some retroactive cases, but I don't know. I don't know how that works. But the other thing is, if that's not why they're suing them, then they have to prove, at least in an American court of law, I don't know how Japanese court of law works, but if that's not the case and they want to win this suit, they technically, they should, if they have good law, if Pocket Pair has good lawyers, will question them on why haven't you addressed every other game that has infringed in some way, shape, or form like this. You know, there are other. I mean, nothing is quite this similar, but there are other games that have been very similar to Pokemon. You know, you look at Cassette Beasts. It's a little different, but there are definitely similarities. It's nowhere near as close as Palworld, but there's a lot of similarities. There's lots of games that have come out. What was that? I don't remember the name of it right now.
Temu or something?
Temu? No, it's not Temu. That's the app.
Temu is the app, but it's
Yeah.
something like that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about, and probably Chad will bring it up. But there's games like that are very similar. So
Temtem.
problem is what Temtem. Yes, they have not. They haven't defended against those types of games, and so they have to then prove, well, this is similar enough in different ways that. So it's a whole thing, and again, it's in a different court of law. I don't really fully understand how it's going to work with different laws than we have in the U.S. But in the U.S., I think you've got a burden of proof, and then that burden of proof, because of the type of law it is with trademarks, copyrights, patents, etc., you have to prove that you've protected it in the past. And if you can't prove you've protected it in the past, your case gets a lot weaker. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not a lawyer or a scientist or anything like that by any means, but I have seen some legal opinions on it that are like, yeah, it's obviously a blatant Pokemon ripoff, but I don't think this isn't me saying this. Lawyers have said, like, I don't think Nintendo has a chance to win this because of the way they filed it and when they filed it. So we'll see what happens. Derek says, I played Temtem for a bit. It was such a direct copy of Pokemon. It was insane, but only double battles, which was annoying. Yeah, I have not played Temtem, but I watched part of it. I watched some of it a while back, and I was like, holy crap. You have to imagine when this talk came out, Temtem and everybody else who's ever made a game anything like Pokemon were like, oh, are we going next? But again, like, yeah, Pocket Pair knew what they were doing, but also, like, look at all the games that Pokemon hasn't gone after, that Nintendo hasn't gone after, that have been very similar clones, and they haven't said anything.
Is it because all the other games have been way less commercially successful?
I'd say that's a huge part of it.
That's what I'm saying is kind of like the sticking point for me is that, like, you could be a bully, whatever. And I guess Nintendo's money could have crushed every single thing that could have possibly came up and tried to sue the pants off of every little developer that's not, Pocket Pair's size at this point after their blowout success. But I think the reason we're seeing this and the answer to the question you guys are asking is because it was so successful and no other reason. I think if it was not successful, it would fall into the exact same category as these other games that have come before it that have no legal action. And I'm almost positive about that.
I think you're right. That's definitely a large part of it. But also I'm just like, well, why did it take you so long? Because we know that they have no problem hitting other people. As soon as the game is like, has a Steam page, they're like, hey, stop it. Send the cease and desist. We're going to send the power of Nintendo at you, and people bail. But this one, it's not only been out for a while, it was announced for a long while, and it's sold millions and millions and millions of copies. So why now? That's the thing that's like...
Would a court look at that timeline and kind of throw that back at Nintendo and say you're being a little bit opportunistic based on the fact that you waited for this thing to be a proven commercial success and then try to take it down? Like if nobody cared about Palworld, would we be talking about this right now? I kind of wonder.
I want to say no, and that probably is no, but they've known about this game for so long, and they've crushed other games immediately. But there's a lot they've let go through too. I mean, they even recently filed a claim on somebody on Twitter who used Twitter's AI to generate a picture of Mario and said it was copyright infringement, even though they weren't, selling it or anything. But patent and copyright and trademark law is a little bit opportunistic by nature. You know how you have ambulance chasers who like, oh, there's, I don't know if you really have people who chase ambulances, but that's what we call them. You know, they're the people who, as soon as somebody has an accident, they're there with their business card, like trying to get them to represent them and sue the company. When I ran the brewery, we would file copyright trademark names for different beers that we had just to protect the brand, you know, because you have to, or else somebody just rips it off. And pretty much any time we would file something, we'd get a letter telling us that somebody else already had a name that was similar to that and this and that. There was never a single one that was real. Like all of them were, you know, some of them were like in the wine industry and we were in the beer industry. Those trademarks don't overlap each other. So I'm just going to pretend like I made a beer and called it Dave. And somebody had a wine and called it Dave. That technically would not be infringement, but people would still send letters because you have these ambulance chasers, these trademark people going. They just have machines that search all the new listings, and anything that's flagged in their thing, it auto generates a letter and sends it out. That's not what Nintendo does. They target things. Like they have a whole team of people who just look at stuff, a whole law firm, I assume, that just works for them and does it. So it was way more narrow. You know, they're already looking at things way more directly and seeing all these games, and it's only one space that they're looking at, and they're seeing it. They knew about this, and they chose to wait this long. So either they needed to wait till they had the case wrapped up, or they didn't have a leg to stand on before whatever patent they're filing it against came up. Again, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not an attorney. I just have a little bit of side knowledge from listening to other people. So
I have to know what the legal firm they use. Like, I think it's like Bowser and Toad or something like that.
yeah, I think that's probably true.
Or if they have billboards in Western New York. So
Imagine working for them. You'd never go out of business. That's the safest job in the world. Nintendo's law firm. That's the safest job in the world.
Let's move on. I'm tired of talking about Palworld. I don't want to play more of it, though. That's for sure. What happens if Nintendo wins? Do they have to take the game down and refund everybody? There's no way they could make them do that, right? Like, there's no way.
Maybe they have to remove it from sale immediately.
Yeah, removing it from sale is a good possibility, but I don't know. Rocksteady is going back to Batman. This comes from videogamer.com. It says, after finishing with the Arkham series in 2015's Arkham Knight, Rocksteady spent years developing its live service Suicide Squad game. However, after the game failed to capture an audience, the studio is allegedly back in the Batcave. According to Xbox Era co-founder Nick, Rocksteady is reportedly already working on the next Batman game. As the studio's bread and butter, fans could receive another single-player adventure or a multiplayer title similar to Gotham Knights. Quote, not sure which studio people's dream is, but I heard Rocksteady, they're back to making the next Batman game, the leaker said. I also think that Sony are trying to money hat it. Boys, how do you feel? Do we need another Batman Arkham game? Is it time to move on? Is this a good move for Rocksteady? Is it going to be full of microtransactions and ways to steal our money? Dave, you're reacting very
vigorously. I'm
Vigorously.
gooning over here, you know?
Dude,
Still don't know what that means.
don't edge on stream, buddy. That's against TOS. Holy fuck, bro.
I think this is what everyone wants to hear, and this story references Gotham Knights. And I think if Rocksteady set out to make a Gotham Knights style Arkham game, I think they'd have a hit on their hands. And I think the issue with Gotham Knights is, I suspect it started out life as a games as a service style battle pass model thing. And then they pivoted partway through development because they saw the disaster that was Avengers. And you can kind of see it in the shell of Gotham Knights. Is like, it feels like there's supposed to be service elements here, and they're not. And I think that really took away from the game. But I think the idea of having kind of a multiplayer Arkham style game was a really, really good one. And I wish someone would just try to do that, but not have all the stupid games as a service elements in it, because the idea of Avengers was excellent. The idea of Gotham Knights was excellent. The idea of Suicide Squad is excellent, but what screwed them all up was the service elements. And I think if anybody could nail this, it's Arkham. But in any case, I'm just happy to hear that Rocksteady is hopefully going back to their roots. they've got a pretty good opportunity here of not going the Arcane Austin route, where they didn't let one massive commercial failure kill them, and they're still with us. So hopefully they can go back to what they do so well. But I'm really happy to hear about this.
Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, having played some of the Arkham games, I feel like this is kind of what they need to return to. There's been a clear separation of quality and kind of vision over the past couple games that have kind of not really resonated with the fan base. It's clear to me that this studio is really good at some things, and maybe not so hot on others. So why don't we kind of just return to form here? My worry would obviously be that we've kind of gotten so far away from probably the original team and so far away from probably a lot of the visionaries in the studio that, at this point, it's probably a shell of what it once was. So I would hate to see them kind of return back to this formula with a different set of eyes, so to speak, and for it to still be really bad. But I guess this might be our only hope of kind of recapturing the wonderful, almost revolutionary type of game that Batman was at the beginning. I mean, it kind of spawned an entire genre of beat 'em up fighters that have parry mechanics in them. There's no doubting how revolutionary it was at the very beginning. But that's been a long, long time ago. So I don't want to think that we can necessarily capture the lightning in the bottle again, because sometimes things like this happen and they never happen again. Not to say that they didn't have a couple good games. That's not what I'm saying. But it's been a long time, even since the last one. So I don't know. We'll see. This is good for me. I think this is good for the fan base, but I'm not really going to get my hopes up until I see some proven things, because there's just been so much stink, I guess, is where I'm at.
Yeah. I don't really know if I have anything to add to that. So I'm not going to. Imagine that, not having something to say about something.
Wow.
Steam has hit a new record. This comes from WCCF Tech. It says PC games are increasing day by day. Steam concurrent players almost hit 40 million.
Sheesh.
Not a month passed, and Steam has already broken its record for the most concurrent players. Last month, it reached 37.2 million concurrent players, which was already the best we've seen. Yesterday, literally a month late, like less than a month later, it reached a whopping 38.3. That's a whole extra million, the highest of all time. Steam's concurrent players in 2024 are on a continuous rise, even though the average concurrent players are generally 7 million players less. The overall rise in the player count is obvious from the chart. However, this is the first time that the average concurrent players on Steam aren't looking to go below 30 million. Since the release of Black Myth Wukong, the overall concurrent player count has increased dramatically. The game reached about 2.3 million concurrents played at the launch time, and even though it's nowhere near its peak player count, it still manages to reach up to 500,000 concurrent players at peak and over 100K concurrent players on average. Nonetheless, it's still among the top 10 played Steam games on the client at the moment worldwide. The rest of the top 10 played games are mostly multiplayer, with Counter-Strike 2 sitting in the top with sitting at the top with peak concurrent players of around 1.45 million and an average of over 900,000 concurrent players. I think this is really interesting because not only are we seeing like more people playing on PC, we're seeing more people play on PC. We're seeing more people, get into PC gaming, play on Steam. We've got the Steam Deck. We've got other people able to use the Steam client on other devices, from what I understand as well. But I really wonder how much this count is going up because of Banana.
Dude, shut the
It's got to
fuck
be a
up
little
about
bit
that
of an
game.
impact,
Shut
right?
the- Dude, literally, when I learned what this game was, I said to my brother, "Are you fucking joking me?"
I mean,
you can
that's
play.
not the point. That's not the point. That's not the question I'm asking.
God damn it, Ben.
First of all,
I'll
nobody
rant.
plays Banana. They leave it on overnight.
Shovelware.
Second of all, yes, it is. But second of all, I think that games like that probably have a little bit of something to do, because those people are people who would normally not be in a game, right? They would be asleep, not playing a game. But when you have the games like Banana, for those who don't know, Banana is literally a game where you just turn it on and it generates a banana, and hopefully you get a trading card that you can sell or something stupid like that, right? It's basically
Essentially.
a crypto scam, kind of. But I'm looking at this chart, and I don't know exactly when this was taken. I think this was during the 38 million. This is the number 3 most popular game. Current players 359,000 at the time this image was taken. That's 359,000 people who wouldn't be online otherwise. And granted, the number going up by a million, but that's got to contribute somewhat to it. I don't know. Anyway, Dave, what do you think about Steam's numbers? Just keep going up. Whether Banana's involved or not, they're going up.
I hadn't heard of Banana before this, so I'm glad you gleaned that information on me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I just always find myself rooting for Valve and Steam. They've just endured so well for so long, and there's been tons of attempted competitors coming their way and heavy hitters. Like you look at the Epic Game Store, GOG, and Origin, and Uplay. Like these are Epic, EA, Ubisoft, that kind of stuff, and they've all tried to have competing storefronts that still exist, but everybody just sticks with Steam. And I think Steam has a really customer-centered focus with the way they deliver their services. And look at not having to have a subscription fee for online play, being able to download and play a game for 2 hours and then be able to return it. Like nobody else has that, and it's so important. And I also look at Steam as such an important platform for indie developers, because it's tough to get on PlayStation sometimes and Xbox, but every single indie game is releasing on Steam, and it's it's not easy to be a success, but I think it's just such a great platform in our industry, and I like to see it succeed. So the fact that it continues to grow in the face of such stiff competition, not only on the PC space, but just gaming in general, is great. So you know what, Valve, don't worry about Half-Life. Keep doing what you're doing with Steam. We're happy with you.
Yeah, it's interesting because talking about those other stores made me think, I forgot to mention when we were talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows, that the game is now coming to Steam day and date, coming at launch. And while I don't know that that's where I would play it necessarily, maybe it would be, that says something to me that other people are realizing, like other companies, even though they're like, hey, play on our app, buy the game from us, we want that extra 30%, etc. They're still like, there's enough players there that we need to be there because we're not getting the player base we need to have.
Well, I was going to say, realize that. Do you know what that means to me? Low numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Low numbers. That's what that means to me.
Yeah. So.
This is good. I mean, we've been talking about, the rise of PC gaming. How many people have multiple accounts and then forget about them? I'm sure there's a bunch of them, but it's undoubtedly, the future is undoubtedly PC, and therefore undoubtedly Steam. So
yeah.
At least as it stands in the current market. And to be honest with you, the market share is so heftily whaled, is so heftily dwarfed by Steam that something truly astronomical and completely breaking would have to happen for it to change at this point. The momentum's just too large. If they were like, hey, you got to charge, you have to, there has to be a subscription to play Steam, would tank it. But they wouldn't do that because they don't need it. They're making money hand over fist and everyone loves them. There's no reason for it to change.
It would tank it, but also what else are you going to do?
That's true.
I don't think they'll do it, but the only thing that I think can bring Steam down at this point, and by the way, other stores, Epic, like I don't care. I'll just click on the thing on my screen. Wherever I have the game is fine. It doesn't matter. I like stuff on Steam, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a person who cares. Other stores definitely have less. I think about Epic, they don't have some very simple things, but also like they had a lot of time to learn from Valve, but Steam has also been around for 20 plus years at this point.
Right.
So like I'd give them a little grace, but like come on. Some very simple things you can get together. But the thing I was thinking about is eventually, I hate to say it, but Gabe will no longer be at Valve in one way or another. He will either resign and go hang out in his deep sea boat, go see the Titanic and the Marianas Trench and all sorts of stuff, or he's going to die. That's just an inevitability of life. What happens after that? As far as I know, I mean, they're privately held. As far as I know, there's no succession plan for Gabe. I assume somebody either comes in and buys it up, or somebody else takes it over, and eventually do we lose? I'm not saying Gabe is the only thing that's made Steam successful by any sense of the imagination, or Valve, but like at some point there's going to be a regime change, and I'm a little bit trepidatious about what that looks like. But if we just keep buying enough games, he will live forever. So it's okay. Boys, it's time to talk about what we have been playing. Brandon, why don't you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first and foremost, I'll say I played a little bit of Astrobot. I don't want to say that I've cooled it on it a little bit, but I haven't really felt the need to kind of blow through it. Who knows if I'll like kind of fizzle out. I've kind of just been popping in for a little bit. When I get frustrated with something, I'm like popping out, which isn't awful for me. I'm not necessarily like the biggest platformer guy, and it has nothing to do with the game. It has everything to do with me. I've just been like distracted with other things. So, not a whole lot to say as far as that goes that hasn't already been said. I've also been playing
I'll just pop in here. I finished up Astrobot in the last week, and platinumed it, and I'm very much excited for the time trials, the speed runs that are coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm glad they're putting out free content. That's really cool. So, I've also been playing an old game, a beloved game, Vampire Survivors. I did pop in for a little bit. I'd say maybe like a total of 20 or 30 minutes prior to my new trip into the game recently. I've played hours of it now, and I'm really, really thoroughly enjoying it. I'll probably end up playing some more tonight. What hasn't been said about this game, so I won't really belabor the point, but I'm really having a lot of fun just kind of moving around the screen and collecting coins. So, and last but certainly not least, Ben and a couple of our buddies checked out Pilgrim this week. It's kind of like a medieval Lethal Company, so to speak. So it's in very, very early access, I think is kind of what they're determining it. It was only $5, I think. It has some really, really cool things about it.
It was on sale when we bought it. I think it's normally 7 or 8, but yeah.
Okay.
Still, yeah.
Either way, it's very cheap, but popping in with the boys and getting into some shenanigans is really cool. I'm trying to determine if I should give away the coolest part about the game, because it's so cool when it happens to you the first time. I doubt anybody will even play it that's listening to it.
Before you give it away, can you describe it to me in a way that won't give it away?
Yeah, so like playing back the voices afterwards, if that makes sense.
No, I think you should keep that a secret.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some really, really cool things they do with this game that I've not seen in any game. I'm sure it's been in games, but the way they utilize it in this game, this type of game specifically, it's one for one Lethal Company. You hop on a ship, essentially. It's a wagon in this game. You can only go so far. You go to places. You run around and, see spooky monsters in the dark. It has a cool art style, and then you gotta go sell shit and go to the next spot. So it doesn't have a ton of tricks up its sleeve. I feel like after playing for maybe like 4 or 5 hours, you've kind of seen it all, but this is maybe one to look out for in the future. As games like Lethal Company have continued to be updated, it's just kind of a cool experience. Even if it's one thing you play one night with your buddies, I actually think it's kind of worth $7. Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you.
So,
like,
too.
if there was a night with the boys where you're like, we want to try something cool, pop in for $7. $7, it's actually way worth it. So, I don't know if you have anything else.
It's still in development, so there'll be more stuff added to it. But
yeah, absolutely. But I don't know if you had anything else to say about it, Ben. But that's actually it. That's all I've been playing myself. So,
the one thing I wanted to add, I don't know if you saw this message from Dustin. He said, so Dustin is our friend who's on Sacred Symbols. He said, the creator of Pilgrim wrote into Sacred Symbols and is a listener. It blew his mind when I mentioned us playing it on the show. He said he learned about Lethal Company from hearing Dustin talk about it on Sacred Symbols last year and checked it out. He then was inspired to make a similar game that is now Pilgrim.
That is so fucking cool.
Us playing Lethal Company with Dustin made him talk about it, which made this guy make Pilgrim, which now we're talking about again.
You're joking, dude. That's insane. I'm never going to forget that. That's actually fucking amazing. And Dave, I don't know if you'll play the game, Dave. I really want to tell you because it is actually... Did you play Lethal Company, Dave? Okay. Well, I was gonna say one of the things it does is actually very, very, very cool. If the dude's listening or whoever it is, if the person's listening that made the game, I know I wasn't very descriptive about what's different specifically in this game than something like Lethal Company, but one of the surprises was actually really genuinely revolutionary to me, and I wish it was something that was in more games like this because it kind of added. We were laughing nonstop about it. Really, let's just say that. So I'll kind of keep it as is. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Nice. And that's it for you?
That's it, man. That's it.
All right, Dave, why don't you go ahead and you can talk about Core Keeper last.
Sure.
So I can chime in there.
Cuphead. I had originally planned to not talk about this week because I had kind of a rough week with Cuphead. As I mentioned last week, I was stuck on King Dice, and I've been playing it all week. I think I probably sunk at least 5 hours into Cuphead and was not making any progress on King Dice. But fellas, about an hour before we started the show, I booted it up, and I'm happy to report that I have beaten King Dice.
Let's
Nice,
go.
let's go.
Finally.
Baby. Let's
So-
go, baby.
I think obviously I needed to get King Dice is a boss rush, as many of you know. And I think I needed to get really good at all the mini bosses, and I did that over the course of the week. But the problem was I was dying instantly as soon as I was getting to King Dice because I couldn't deal with his main attack. The other thing I was doing wrong is for those of you who don't know, there's a little dice that's spinning on screen, and you have to parry it, and whatever that dice lands on, that's which boss you have to fight. And there are certain parts on the board that actually have health boosts, and I was just so bad at parrying that dice and getting it to where I wanted to land that I just said fuck it, and I'm just gonna parry it at random and take what I get. I finally developed a strategy to parry it and like accurately so I could get it to where I landed, and my last run, I got the health pickup on every single thing. I only had to play 3 bosses. And I will admit, I did cheese King Dice because what you can do is you can stand to the outside of his hand and none of the cards that he spawns will hit you. So I did that. And
I can't believe they still haven't fixed that.
cheese is a state of mind, fellas.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not cheating the game. It is what it is. And I got cheesed by King Dice for probably about 20 hours. So he can suck it. So that's big for me because there were several times this week where one, almost broke my Switch, and 2, almost quit entirely. But you know what, fellas? I just reminded myself that I have every single gold medal in the Gran Turismo 7 time trial, or it's not time trials, license tests. And that was persistence. It wasn't skill, it was persistence. So I persisted.
That's all you need.
Yeah, so now I just have to persist over the devil and beat the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like
And
the
then
devil
the DLC is next.
yeah, I feel like the devil is a little bit more down to earth compared to King Dice because it's not a boss rush; it's just one boss. So hopefully this doesn't take that long. But
Dave, if it gives you any motivation, it took me a pretty long time to beat King Dice. I beat the devil on my first attempt.
Bruh.
So I definitely think the devil is easier than King Dice, if that helps.
you're an elite gamer. But
I
yeah,
am when it
glad
comes to
hear that.
platformers, Cuphead specifically.
Hold up.
But
Hold up. Dave, you
Yep.
beat Elden Ring.
I did.
Let's not forget about that. Let's
did.
let's not forget about
Ben
and
didn't
you have
do
the
that.
gold in the time trials.
Yeah.
Neither one of us has that.
Yeah.
King Dick. This is the King Canadian Dick right here. I'm pointing to the right side of the screen.
I have a
right
Skull
here.
and Bones Platinum.
Dude,
that's just perseverance right there. That's-
pre-patch, right?
Um,
Post-patch.
So yeah, my big thing was I wanted to finish Cuphead before Zelda comes out tomorrow. Happy Zelda Week, by the way, for people listening after tonight.
yes.
And I'm probably not going to beat the devil, but that was a big hump for me to overcome. So, yeah. Other thing I've been playing was Gears of War 3. I guess just a brief recap for people. I bought an Xbox 360 earlier this year, and the first thing I bought was the Gears of War trilogy. And I had gotten through the first 2 games and half of the third and put it down. And so, yeah, I just went back this week and finished up the third game. So I'm done the trilogy. And man, what a trilogy Gears of War is, just the original. I'm comfortable in saying at this point that I think Gears of War 2 is my favorite. Not that there's anything wrong with Gears of War 3. I just think that Gears of War 2 iterated so perfectly on the first.
Yeah.
And there were some additions that Gears of War 3 made. Like there was some characters they added in that I really didn't care about. And they kind of lean a little bit too much into like the lambent characters and stuff. It was really, really good. But I think you kind of have to play this series as a whole, 1, 2, 3, and you can do it in 30 hours. That's less time than it takes to beat a lot of AAA RPG style games. So yeah, but there was one moment in Gears of War 3 where there's some foreshadowing, and I think you can kind of see this moment coming, but something happens and you're in a cutscene, and then all of a sudden the audio kicks out of the cutscene and Mad World kicks in. And everything goes into slow motion, and boys, I cried a little. It was just perfect. And I'm not going to get into what I'm talking about because, maybe some people are going to revisit the series now that a new one's coming out. But that scene where, I don't know, Ben, you're kind of looking at me like, what is he talking about?
No, I'm just looking at you.
Okay, yeah. But I don't know. When Mad World kicked in, it was just like, man, it took me right back to like 2007 in that moment. So... yeah, I think that's it. The other one's Core Keeper. I don't know if you want me to do you want to
lead it.
Yeah, so Daddy Ben provided me a copy of Core Keeper, and
just to clarify, I provided it because the PR company provided it to us, all three of us.
It was your daddy.
My daddy
there you
provided
go.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, I played about 3 or 4 hours with Core Keeper, and I played 2 or 3 of those hours with Ben. And Core Keeper I can probably best describe it as, it looks a lot like Stardew Valley, but I think from a gameplay mechanic perspective, it's probably a little bit closer to Minecraft. Because so what happens is you start the game in like this mysterious cave, and you just kind of got to start digging, and you're in this procedurally generated world. And what you find out pretty quickly is there are a number of bosses in the world, and you have to go and find them and kill them. And you get these gems that you use to power up this mysterious like construct that's in the like middle of the world that you spawn into. And there's a lot of enemies in the world, and it's really, really hard. And in order to kind of reasonably progress, you have to farm materials, and you can build little like settlements where you can craft items, and just that kind of game. It looks a lot like Stardew Valley from like a visual perspective, so just kind of picture that, but with more Minecraft style gameplay. I enjoyed it. I found it to be a little bit tough at times. I don't know if the difficulty scales based on how many people you have in the world, but Ben, when you and I were playing, I feel like we got ganked a lot, and in retrospect, I don't know why we weren't just dropping inventory chests like as we were running, so we could, rather than going all the way back to our base to deposit things, we could have just left them in chests all around the world. Because if you die, anything you have equipped you keep, but anything that's in your inventory you lose. You can go back and get it, but yeah. But I'm not gonna lie, as I was playing, I kind of just wanted to play Valheim. Yeah. So I don't know, Ben. What are your thoughts on Core Keeper?
I share a lot of the same thoughts you do, and of course, it's no secret to the audience that I'm a big fan of survival crafting type games, and that's very much what this is. You're right about the gameplay being a lot like Minecraft. The thing I will say is that it's not like as clunky, I guess, as Minecraft. And what I mean by that is it's not like, oh, you're gonna die because you get bopped off a mountain. In this game, you're going to die because of enemies, typically. Or I guess you could make a stupid fall into a lava pit or something like that. But it's a cool perspective on the game. It definitely iterates a lot on those previous, pixel art style games, that it just takes it and makes it look a whole new way. It changes the dynamic a lot just because of the orientation of the camera, I think. And I'm really interested to see what continues to happen. I want to play it a lot more because I get sucked into games like this, and I've been kind of holding off because I don't want to go see too much of the game without Dave. I want to, even though I could start a new world or whatever, I want to continue to play together. And yeah, I think you described the game very well. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm curious what it would be like. You talk about the scaling, and I think I don't know this, I'm just guessing. Like, it almost has to scale because Granted, we were very early on in the game, but it was not that hard until we got into like these large groups of enemies in a second location. And I think it supports up to 8 players. And I'm like, if there's 8 people, this would be a piece of cake. I think so. It must scale to some extent, but I'm excited to play more of it. You are right. I got like 60 hours into Valheim 3 weeks one time, and the only reason I quit playing is because everybody quit playing with me in a world that we shared. So I definitely want to go back to Valheim at some point. But I'm just a sucker for survival crafting type games, and that's very much what this is. This game seems to have a lot of mystery about it as far as like the actual plot of the game. I'm not really sure what's going on. I just know that there's some interesting looking images or interesting looking like set pieces that you need to activate, and then I don't know what happens after that. You go to a whole new world. You just continue to expand the world. We didn't even really get into the base building because we were just focused on exploration and surviving essentially. So I'm interested to see what that looks like as well. But I'm interested to hop back into it. But yeah, we're pretty early on. Maybe 3-4 hours at most, and I had a lot of fun with it. I'm ready to play again when we get some time for sure.
Ben, you didn't get into the base building?
We didn't get to it. I definitely wanted to get into it, but it's just like we weren't at a point where it was viable to really start doing. But then right at the end of when we were playing, Dave was like, "Oh, there's an enemy in our base." I was like, "Oh, too bad. I guess we got to start building the base."
Who are you, Ben?
Don't sell yourself short. I felt really bad because we kind of indirectly got into the roles where I was going out and farming for stuff and trying to explore, and Ben was kind of building up our base, and I kept dying out in the world, so I kept returning back to our base with nothing, and Ben had built like all of these fields with all the stuff he's growing. He's organized everything. He's made all these chests and these like smelting centers and all that kind of stuff.
Ben is your trad wife. He is your trad wife. He will be at home while you're in the mines.
He's got the little Twitch tag that's Core Keeper carries.
Yeah,
that's what it was. So yeah,
cool. For me, I mentioned I got the Platinum and Astrobot. I have nothing really more to add to that game except it's lovely, and I can't wait for the time trials to come out. Brandon talked about Pilgrim. Dave talked about Core Keeper. So I've got 2 more things. One, World of Warcraft. Boys, I done and did it. I done and did it. I played World of Warcraft back in the very early days, and then I quit and have been able to keep away from the obsession for many, many, many years.
Why?
Have you ever played World of Warcraft, Brandon?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you should.
Why the fuck would you want to pay for that shit, dude?
A friend gifted me some stuff, so
all right, that's fine then.
Yeah. I agree with the why I don't want to pay a subscription fee. I don't love that about the game, but the actual gameplay, like I like MMOs. I do.
Sure.
I really like the grind. I like all the quests. I like running around and doing stuff randomly. So WoW has always appealed to me. The only reason I've never gotten back into it is because of the time sink and because I didn't have people to play it with. And now I got some people who want to play it. So I've been playing a little bit and I'm having fun. I still don't know anything because I've missed out on 15 years of story. So I'm going back through right now a couple of the stories and, trying to figure that out. What I'm finding is that I don't care about the stories, which is not great. But I do love the gameplay. Like, I genuinely do like it. I like pushing the numbers. I like clicking on things. I'm sorry. That's just the kind of person I am. So I'm probably going to go watch some YouTube lore videos and stuff just to catch up on. Because I think the overarching story has always been interesting to me and the characters and how it builds the universe. But the actual experiencing it is not my favorite thing, to be brutally honest. So I'll be caught up level-wise so that I can go do the new expansion with some people pretty soon and run some dungeons and stuff. We'll see how it goes from there. The other thing is Balatro Mobile. I got a advanced test flight key for this, which will go. It's fine. I already had the game pre-ordered the moment they announced it. I think this essentially review copy goes away after the game comes out, so that's fine. But I don't really play games on mobile, and I've probably spent like 5 or 6 hours playing this. Just like while I'm getting ready to go to bed or eating lunch and just sitting there playing it while I'm eating lunch and ignoring my dog and everything that goes on around me. You know how I feel about Balatro. I think Balatro is a phenomenal game. The mobile version of this is more Balatro, and that's a good thing. I'll say bad first and then good. The only bad thing so far, one, I've discovered that my eyes are not as good as I thought they were because sometimes I'm having to strain a little bit to see. That's not a knock against the game at all. I think it's literally just I'm old now. And then the second thing is that I know it's tough, but I really wish there was some sort of cross save because I've progressed, for lack of a better way to say it, very far on my PC run, and unlocked a lot of new decks, unlocked almost all the jokers, unlocked a bunch of stuff, and you still have access to those things, but except for the decks from a vanilla standpoint of the game, from brand new, but being able to play those higher end decks is a lot of fun. But now I have a whole new grind to work on. Those are really the only two negative things about it. I'd say the positive things: one, it's Balatro mobile. If you like Balatro, you'll like Balatro on mobile. Two, I was a little worried, like when you, for instance, let's say you have a Joker card and you want to tap it and you want to sell it. That gets pretty small in all the other versions of the game. In the mobile game, they've made it so you just click on those and then drag them to spots that either say like use or sell or something like that. So they've made the game more mobile friendly without taking away any of the functionality and really just making it better so that you don't have to strain to see it. You don't accidentally click on the wrong thing. And it just feels super intuitive. I think it'll feel intuitive for people who have never played Balatro, but it's super intuitive for people who have because that's really the only things that are different. That I've noticed. And I think that's good from somebody who has, I don't know, 40 plus hours into other versions of Balatro to not feel like I have any learning curve for the mobile version. Because, there are games that you play somewhere else and then you play them on mobile and you're like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't the same game I liked. Balatro is the same game, and it's perfect for that. So it's coming out on iOS and Android. I think it's also coming out. I know it's also coming out on Apple Arcade. So if you have an Apple Arcade subscription, there's no reason not to check it out unless you don't want to lose hours of your life. If you don't, I think it's gonna be $10. And honestly, if this game at all appeals to you, it is worth way more than $10. I can't believe it was so cheap when it came out on Steam, because not only is there a lot to play, but it's also basically infinitely replayable. So for people who are getting hung up on the card aspect or the poker aspect, yeah, you deal with poker hands and you deal with cards, but that's about as far as it goes into that. Everything else is strategy, RNG, etc. So I encourage anybody who's at all interested in Balatro to give it a shot on the mobile version for sure. A lot of fun. That's all I got. That's all I got for this week. That's been all we have together. Don't forget, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/handsomephantom. We appreciate your support over there. Sign up for as little as $1 a month. Thank you. Also, join us on Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. Hang out with us, shenanigans, all the rest. Hear about people getting wisdom tooth surgery. Have some fun. We'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. We're coming up on 300 here soon. 4 weeks. 3-4 weeks. We will be unstoppable. See you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
I got to bring up something. Ed said long episode. I'm going to look at, let's see, our last episode. This is a little longer for sure. We're at an hour 37 at the show's end. Last episode was hour 17, hour 22, hour 19, hour 31, hour 30, hour 17, hour 8, hour 18. We're not that far over schedule, guys.
Dude, this is turning into some fucking... Never mind.
It will never.
Never mind.
It never will.
Never mind.
It never will.
This turned into some Hold Up Redacted.
Hold up redacted. With that said, we need a show title, boys.
Tony Hawk Tua.
No, we didn't. We already did that.
Skate on that thing. I hate how famous that girl's become. All the appearances and
you loved
podcasts
it, Dave,
and
when it
shit.
came out. Rewind the tape. Rewind the tape. You loved it. We all did. It was fun for a day or two. We made this happen. Remember that. I know it hurts me too.
call it a show? Gooning and
Show.
crooning?
Dude, let's see, dude. Should it be something about gooning?
No.
State of goon?
No.
Goon edge of play? Edge station? Goon Pro?
Edge of play. Let's stop. Just stop. Okay. That's all.
Assassin's Goon? Goon Creed? Edge Creed? Delayed due to gooning.
We're done.
I'm sorry.
Goodbye, everyone.
Buttman returns?